Hello, my name is Julie, and this is Stamp with Julie Baum. Today is another episode of Simply Saturday, where I get to show you a card that is fast and easy to make. We're going to jump into our card in just a moment, and the main feature of today's card is the You're a Peach Designer Series paper. Now, this paper is going to be retiring soon. But I have loved it and I wanted to use it today. So again, it's called You're a Peach Designer Series paper. That's really going to be carrying the weight of our card today. I do want to mention that if you enjoy today's video, and especially if there are products that you would like to order, this is the current host code shown here, and it is good for another couple of weeks. You can go to my website, stampwithjuliebaum.com, click on Shop Now, and you'll be redirected to my online store. At checkout is when you put in the host code. So I'm starting today with a piece of Calypso Coral cardstock. It's a very standard size card base, so it's 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4, and folded. We're going to make a top fold card today. So this is going to be the direction. Then I have a piece of basic white cardstock, and this is 5 inches by 3 3/4. So this is going to be our front layer, like so. Now I've taken a little ruler and just marked with a pencil the center of my white cardstock. So there's a little pencil mark here at 2.5, and then I did it down here as well. I didn't want it on the edge of the cardstock because in just a minute you'll see me gluing my strips of paper, and I don't have to worry about erasing that mark because the paper is going to cover it. So what you want to do is pre-cut several strips of paper. Now, this is really fun to use the Designer Series papers because between the fronts and the backs, you can get a really nice combination of different papers that coordinate beautifully together. So that's what I've done here. These are 1/4 inch, and I have cut them at a 3.5 inch length. All right, so I have a bunch of those, and what I'm going to do is start gluing. I'm going to start in the center. Let me move my card base out of the way. So I'm just going to use my liquid glue and start with my center stripe. And that little pencil mark that I've made at the top and the bottom, that's just going to kind of help me place this first one. All right, and I'm trying to have about an equal distance from the designer paper to the top of the cardstock and down here as well. So there's the first piece. Now from here, you're going to work your way out and just pick papers that look good next to each other. And we're going to just continue gluing until we get a nice pattern of paper. So I like to start from the center because you're likely to have it look nice and centered when you're finished, instead of starting at one side or the other and then ending up in trouble when you get to the other side. So I'm just kind of eyeballing about a little bit less than 1/8 of an inch between my strips. It doesn't even matter because this is pretty much just build as you go. If as you're doing your strips, if only 8 strips looks good, then you're going to stop at 8. If you can do more, it's just whatever you decide. Again, with the 1/4 inch strips, I'm going to be able to get about 9 strips on here. So my center one and then 4 on each side. This is a great card design when you either have just little scraps left of a favorite paper, or also when you're just trying to use some paper up. I know it's very easy to be a paper hoarder because you buy your favorites and then you don't want them to be gone, so you save them. But what happens is you just end up with a whole lot of paper and you're not actually using them and enjoying them. So try not to be a paper hoarder and use those papers up. All right, so now I've built from the center out to the right, and I'm going to come back to the center and build towards the left. Again, all of these papers are from the same packet, and I just picked fronts and backs to mix up my designs. And it's kind of fun because you can just hold it up, see what looks good, move it around. All right, we are nearly finished. The designer paper that you choose will then dictate the color of cardstock for your base, and also perhaps the color of ink that you decide to stamp with, unless you want to stamp your words just in black, which is always fine to do also. Okay, looks like we ended up pretty good with our spacing. Also, with the variety of the patterns, it kind of, it allows your eye to just take in the whole thing and not be super picky about either the spaces between the papers or the margins on the outside if you didn't get it quite even on the right and the left. Mine is pretty close. It's not exact. But when you look at the card as a whole, that really doesn't jump out at you. All right, so there are our paper stripes. I'm going to attach this to my card base. All right, and then we're going to finish this with a sentiment. I've chosen Thank You, and it is from this stamp set called Peaceful Moments. So we're going to use the Thank You stamp, and I've chosen to use Calypso Coral ink, which is the same color as my cardstock base, and it's also in the designer papers. So I'm going to stamp my words on this little piece. What I did is I took 2 dies that nest. This is actually from Hippo and Friends, which is also going to be retiring very soon. But I like the shape, and I like how these nest. But you can use whatever shape you want. You don't even have to use 2. You don't have to have one as a background and one with your words on it. So grab a punch or a die in a shape that you like, and this card will work for you. All right, so here we've got our thank you in place. And I will attach that to, as I said, I chose 2 nesting dies so that I can have one as kind of a frame around this. This is Balmy Blue, which is also a color that is featured in the designer series paper. All right, my liquid glue gives me a little bit of time to move this around if I don't get it quite straight. There we go. And you will see me often flip my piece over and press on the back. That way, in case you have ink on your fingers or even just oils from your skin, you won't make a mess of your bright white paper there. All right, now this is going to go onto our card. Placement is totally optional. You can certainly put it in the middle. That would look great. I'm going to go ahead and put it a little bit down and to the right. At this point, you can use your liquid glue, or you can grab some dimensionals if those are handy and you are in the mood. So I'm actually using up the very remnants of some dimensionals here. So I'm going to just put a chunk over here. And a piece over here. So you can see this was my sheet of dimensionals, and I had already used all the little hexagons, and then I've just slowly been working my way around the edges, using up all the little bits and pieces. All right, so this is going to go onto the front of the card as mentioned, like so. And then You can either choose to be finished at that point and get it in an envelope and be on your way, or if you have time for a little bit of embellishing, I'm just going to grab some rhinestones. I'll show you some things you could do. You could take some ribbon. This is Calypso Coral ribbon from a while back. It's like an ombre. It's very pretty. This could certainly be added to your card. You could use a piece of pale papaya, which is not really in these colors, but it certainly works well with the peaches and the blues. So you could have a piece of ribbon going across. Or another thing that you can do is just fold your ribbon. This would be, commonly this is called a carrot, I guess, because it kind of looks like the shape of a carrot. Now, if I was doing this, I would have added it before putting my words on, but let me just tuck this in and show you what that would look like. Okay, so you could have a little piece of ribbon tucked in there, trim up the edges a little bit. So there's definitely more that you can do, but in keeping with Simply Saturday, we are just going to embellish this with some rhinestones and move on. So I'm going to use 3. I'm going to go ahead and use 1 here on my white tag. And a second one here. And then a larger and final one down here. Again, 3 and 5 odd numbers are very good for your embellishments, and this kind of has almost a triangle shape, which is also really pleasing to the eye. And there you have it. Now, before I let you go, I want to show you one option. Instead of using 1/4-inch strips as I did here, I have another card. This one is with uneven strips. You can see I used the same paper, the same color combinations, but these strips are different. So if you want it to look like that, you're going to take your paper strips and just randomly cut. I'll show you that. I'm going to use your trimmer, and you're going to randomly cut kind of at a funky angle. So I'm going to angle my paper here with the wider part at the top and the narrow part at the bottom. See how I have an angle? And then you can cut some other pieces the other way. So nothing is measured. You're just going to start cutting pieces so that you have strips that are angled. Then you need to get it down to the 3.5-inch length. So I've already done that on most of those, but you can use your trimmer. But you want to get all of your strips down to that length. Then all you're going to do when you build your stripes is start with one that is wider at the bottom and narrow at the top, and the next one that's narrow at the bottom and wider at the top, and so forth. You're going to go narrow at the top, and I only have 2 prints left here. Wide at the top. All right, so you can see the pattern. When you do this style, be careful because your eye is going to think that things are crooked because the papers are not cut straight. So you're just going to want to use the top edge and the bottom edge for reference to make sure that your strips of paper are lined up nice and straight. So that is another fun option and a great way to use up these little scraps of paper that you might have. Here are the straight cuts, and here are the angles. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, please give me a thumbs up. I would love it if you leave me a comment. Let me know what you liked best and what you plan to do with this idea. And again, if you would like to go to my stamp store at stampwithjuliebaum.com, you can purchase any products that you would like to get and enter this host code at checkout. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.